God values the honesty of your heart more than the length or perfection of your prayers. This is a truth that often gets lost in the business of life, where we can mistakenly believe that spirituality is measured by how much we do, how loudly we pray, or how perfectly we follow rituals. But God does not look at the clock you spent in prayer, the words you carefully constructed, or the posture you assumed. What matters most is the transparency of your heart, the authenticity with which you approach Him. Even the simplest, most broken prayer spoken with sincerity carries far more weight in the spiritual realm than a long, flawless prayer offered out of routine or obligation. When you open your heart honestly, even in its pain, confusion, or imperfection, God leans in because honesty is the language of intimacy with Him. Think about those mornings when you didn't have the right words, when your mind was scattered, when your emotions were raw and messy. Maybe all you could say was a simple, "Help me, Lord," or "I'm struggling." That short, honest prayer is more powerful than elaborate speeches filled with words you don't even fully feel. God sees beyond words. He reads the heart. Your honesty communicates trust and reliance on Him in a way that mechanical repetition never can. When your heart is genuine, it reveals a vulnerability that God honors. It is in that vulnerability that His presence meets you most deeply. There is a profound difference between praying out of habit and praying from the depth of your heart. Habitual prayers may check a box, but heartfelt honesty invites God into the hidden corners of your life. He is not impressed by ceremony. He is moved by sincerity. Every tear, every whispered confession, every acknowledgement of your weakness or need becomes a powerful act of connection. When you approach God honestly, you remove all masks, all pretenses, and you allow Him to see you as you truly are. That rawness touches His heart because it reflects a willingness to be real with Him, to let Him into the authentic struggles and joys of your life. Honesty in prayer also reflects humility. It is an acknowledgement that you cannot do life alone, that you need divine guidance, strength, and wisdom. God delights in humility because it opens the door for His power to work in your life. When your heart is open, unguarded, and truthful, it becomes a vessel for His work. You do not need to have your life perfectly together or your thoughts fully organized to be heard. What matters is that you come with a heart that is true and transparent. In these moments, God is not just listening, He is responding. He is moved to act, to encourage, to guide, and to bless in ways that are aligned with His perfect plan for you. Many people underestimate the power of honest prayer because it feels small, quiet, or insufficient. Yet God measures prayers differently than humans do. He does not measure by volume, length, or complexity, but by the willingness of your heart to be vulnerable before Him. When you speak the truth of your situation, your fears, your doubts, and your hopes, you are participating in a dialogue that moves heaven. That honesty touches God deeply because it reflects your faith in His love and your trust in His sovereignty. Even when your honesty reveals your struggles, shortcomings, or mistakes, it draws God closer. He is not repelled by imperfection. He is drawn to the hearts that acknowledge it and still reach toward Him. The courage to be honest, to show your true self without pretense, is a reflection of your relationship with Him. It shows that you are willing to be known fully without hiding behind appearances or empty words. That willingness is precious to God. In every sincere expression of honesty, your heart communicates something far greater than words can capture. It says, I trust you even when I don't understand. I need you even when I feel weak. I am coming to you just as I am. And that honesty, that raw, unfiltered offering of your heart matters infinitely more than any perfect prayer ever could. It touches God's heart deeply, invites His presence, and aligns your life with His purposes in ways that are unseen but eternally significant. God is working behind the scenes, preparing answers even when you cannot see immediate results. One of the most challenging aspects of faith is learning to trust in what is unseen, to believe that God is orchestrating events even when circumstances seem stagnant or unclear. Life often presents moments where progress feels slow, where prayers appear to go unanswered, and where the delays test your patience. Yet it is precisely in these moments that God's hand is at work, quietly moving pieces into place, arranging paths, and aligning people and circumstances for your ultimate good. Because you cannot see the immediate outcome does not mean nothing is happening. Heaven is active even when your eyes are fixed on waiting and your heart longs for visible change. Patience is a key element in recognizing God's behind the scenes work. Often we expect immediate results. And when our prayers are not answered in the time frame we desire, doubt or discouragement begins to creep in. But God's timing is perfect. He sees the full picture of your life, a picture far beyond what you can comprehend. While you may focus on a single challenge or a single unanswered prayer, God is orchestrating a multitude of factors simultaneously, shaping hearts, opening doors, closing others, and creating opportunities that you may not even realize are necessary for your breakthrough. What seems like delay is often preparation, and every day God is aligning circumstances to ensure that when your answer comes, it will be complete, impactful, and perfect for your life. It is also important to understand that the process of preparation often strengthens you for what is to come. God is not only arranging your external circumstances, but also cultivating your internal readiness. Your character, patience, faith, and resilience are being developed during these seasons of waiting. Each trial, each challenge, and each moment of uncertainty is an opportunity for growth. The unseen work of God is not only about the answer itself, but about transforming you into someone capable of handling the blessing, responsibility, or breakthrough that is on its way. Your perseverance, faith, and trust during these seasons are laying the foundation for a future that will be secure, sustainable, and aligned with His purposes. Faith requires belief in what cannot yet be seen. Trusting in God's unseen work means understanding that every delay, every obstacle, and every season of silence has a purpose. Your prayers are being heard, your efforts are being noticed, and your faithfulness is being rewarded, even if it is not immediately visible. God's behind the scenes work often involves timing, orchestration, and precision that humans cannot fully grasp. What may appear as inactivity is actually divine strategy. Every person, every circumstance, and every event in your life is being positioned perfectly to create the most favorable outcome. Many people grow impatient because they expect instant gratification, but God's work behind the scenes is deliberate, intentional. The answers He prepares are not random. They are tailored specifically to your life, your season, and your purpose. The breakthrough, restoration, or blessing you are waiting for is being carefully cultivated. What you may perceive as a delay is actually a process of aligning spiritual, emotional, and physical elements to ensure that when your answer arrives, it is complete and fully effective. The unseen work of God also provides assurance that you are never alone. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, divine activity is ongoing. Your prayers, faith, and actions are not in vain. The angels are assigned, paths are being cleared, and opportunities are being arranged to intersect with your life at precisely the right moment. Understanding this truth encourages patience, strengthens perseverance, and deepens trust. It reassures you that God is attentive, purposeful, and actively involved in shaping your future for your good. Ultimately, recognizing that God is working behind the scenes calls for steadfast faith, unwavering trust, and quiet confidence. You may not see the full picture now, but every unseen act of divine preparation is building toward your breakthrough. The delays, challenges, and periods of waiting are not signs of neglect. They are evidence of meticulous divine planning. Heaven is aligning itself on your behalf, and every faithful choice you make positions you to receive what God has already prepared. Even when the timing is uncertain, God's work behind the scenes ensures that the answer, when it comes, will be perfect, transformative, and aligned with His greater plan for your life. Your morning act of trust strengthened you for what God is about to release in your life. There is a power in beginning the day with faith, in choosing to lean on God before the pressures, distractions, and challenges of life begin to weigh on your heart. Every morning presents an opportunity to make a conscious decision to allow fear, doubt, or fatigue to dominate, or to place your trust in the one who holds the future. When you choose trust, even in small ways, you are laying a foundation for strength, clarity, and readiness that will prepare you for the blessings, breakthroughs, and assignments that God has prepared for you. That simple act of turning your heart toward God in the morning, of surrendering your plans and uncertainties, does more than provide temporary peace. It equips your spirit to receive and steward the fullness of what is coming. Trust is not passive, it is active. It requires intentionality. When you open your eyes and offer your first thoughts, prayers, or actions to God, you are establishing a pattern of faith that will influence every decision and interaction throughout your day. That act of trust is like spiritual armor, preparing you to face challenges without being overwhelmed, to encounter opportunities without fear, and to navigate uncertainties without despair. Even before the day has fully begun, your faith positions you to walk in alignment with God's purposes. You become spiritually fortified, mentally focused, and emotionally grounded. That strength is a direct result of the trust you chose to demonstrate in the quiet moments of the morning. Many times, people underestimate the significance of the mornings. They rush through them, distracted by routines or obligations. failing to realize that the first moments of the day set the tone for everything that follows. When you intentionally start your day with trust in God, it transforms not just the immediate hours, but the trajectory of your life. You are not merely reacting to circumstances. You are aligning yourself with divine timing, opening yourself to guidance, and cultivating a readiness to receive what has been prepared for you. The spiritual, emotional, and mental strength gained in those early moments of trust becomes a reservoir you draw from when challenges arise. Your morning trust also strengthens your faith muscles. Faith is like a muscle that grows stronger the more it is exercised. When you choose trust first thing in the morning, when the weight of yesterday's struggles may still linger, you are actively exercising faith. You are proving to yourself and to the spiritual realm that you are willing to rely on God before relying on your own understanding. That daily act of reliance compounds over time, creating resilience and stability in your spirit. It prepares you for the greater tasks, responsibilities, and opportunities that God has aligned for your life. Furthermore, your morning trust positions you to recognize and receive God's blessings. Often people miss opportunities because they are unprepared spiritually, emotionally, or mentally. But when your day begins in trust, your mind is clear, your heart is open, and your spirit is sensitive to God's guidance. You are able to discern directions, recognize divine connections, and respond with confidence when doors open. That preparation is not accidental. It is a direct outcome of the faith you exercise in the quiet moments of your morning. Even when challenges, uncertainties, or delays come your way, the trust you demonstrated earlier sustains you. You have already strengthened your connection to God, reinforcing your confidence that His timing, wisdom, and plans are perfect. That internal fortitude allows you to remain patient, hopeful, and steadfast. It protects you from discouragement and equips you to persevere with courage. The simple act of trusting God this morning becomes a cornerstone for your spiritual and emotional endurance, ensuring that when blessings and breakthroughs arrive, you are ready to receive them fully and steward them wisely. Ultimately, your morning act of trust is an investment in your readiness, strength, and alignment with God's plans. By choosing faith, you prepare yourself for the divine release that is already on its way. That act of trust strengthens your spirit, cultivates resilience, and positions you to receive, embrace, and walk in the fullness of what God has prepared. The unseen power of a morning surrendered to God creates a momentum that carries through your entire day and shapes the trajectory of your life, ensuring that you are equipped for every blessing, breakthrough, and opportunity that awaits you. Your quiet obedience and consistency activated spiritual movement and future favor in ways that you may not even realize. There is a profound power in simply showing up, in doing what is right even when no one is watching, and in maintaining faithfulness when the results are not immediately visible. Many people wait for big signs, dramatic answers, or visible breakthroughs before they take action, but the chosen ones understand that it is in the small, consistent acts of obedience that heaven begins to respond. Every time you choose to follow God's guidance, to speak words of faith, or to act with integrity despite circumstances, you are setting in motion spiritual forces that align your life with His divine purposes. Consistency and obedience creates momentum in your life, and that momentum attracts favor, provision, and opportunities that were previously unseen. Consistency in your spiritual life matters more than bursts of enthusiasm. There are moments when you may feel like nothing is happening, when your prayers seem unanswered, or when your actions seem to make no difference. Yet God sees every choice, every effort, and every act of faithfulness. Obedience is not always dramatic, but it carries immense weight in the spiritual realm. When you continue to do what is right, even when it is inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unnoticed by others, you are building a foundation that cannot be shaken. Each act of faithfulness, no matter how small it seems, contributes to the larger picture of your life and purpose. This quiet, consistent obedience draws God's favor and prepares the way for breakthroughs that are already being orchestrated behind the scenes. The power of obedience lies not in the act itself, but in the alignment it creates between your heart and God's will. When you obey, even in small matters, you demonstrate trust, humility, and surrender. These qualities are what attract spiritual movement. Heaven responds to hearts that are willing to be guided, hearts that seek to honor God above personal comfort or recognition. Your faithfulness, repeated over time, signals to the spiritual realm that you are ready for greater responsibility, greater blessing, and greater influence. Every decision to obey, even when it challenges your natural inclinations or desires, plants seeds for future favor that will manifest in ways far beyond what you can imagine. Consistency is a catalyst for spiritual growth. When you commit to obedience day after day, you develop character, perseverance, and resilience. These qualities are essential for receiving the full measure of God's promises. Breakthroughs, blessings, and favor often come not just as a result of a single act, but as the fruit of a life lived in faithful alignment with God's principles. The chosen ones understand that it is the accumulation of small, faithful actions that builds a life of influence and impact. Each morning prayer, each word of encouragement spoken, each decision to act in integrity contributes to a spiritual momentum that sets the stage for divine intervention. Future favor is often activated through faithfulness today. What you do consistently now in your obedience and your faith is preparing the path for blessings, opportunities, and divine connections in the days to come. Many of God's plans operate on a timeline that cannot be rushed, but the consistent obedience of His people ensures that when the time comes, everything falls into place. Your quiet faithfulness is already creating the conditions for divine favor, even if you cannot yet see the outcome. It is also important to recognize that spiritual movement is often subtle before it becomes evident. Sometimes the changes that obedience initiates begin in the unseen realm. Relationships are being shifted, doors are being prepared, and circumstances are being aligned. Your consistent actions, prayers, and choices are the triggers for these shifts. Heaven responds to diligence and faithfulness, And the favor that comes as a result will be disproportionate to the small, consistent steps you have taken. Ultimately, the combination of quiet obedience and consistency is a powerful force. It builds spiritual momentum, cultivates character, and aligns your life with God's divine will. By faithfully doing what is right, even when it seems unnoticed, you are activating favor that will impact your future. Your life becomes a testament to the power of steadfast faith, and the spiritual movement initiated by your obedience ensures that blessings, breakthroughs, and divine opportunities are already on their way. Your commitment today sets the stage for the extraordinary things God is preparing to release in your life. Choosing faith during pain, silence, and uncertainty is one of the most defining characteristics of a chosen one. Life does not always present itself in clarity or comfort. Often, the circumstances surrounding us are confusing. The people we rely on disappoint us, and the answers we seek seem delayed. It is in those moments when the world is heavy, the heart is weary, and the mind is full of questions that choosing faith becomes more than a habit. It becomes an act of courage and spiritual alignment. The chosen ones are not those who only believe when everything is easy or predictable. They are those who, even amid confusion and suffering, lift their eyes to God and say, I trust you. It is in this choice that faith is tested, refined, and ultimately rewarded. Pain often comes unexpectedly, sometimes lingering longer than we are prepared for. It may take the form of loss, disappointment, betrayal, or unfulfilled promises. It is easy to let these situations harden your heart or shake your confidence. Yet the chosen ones make a deliberate choice to remain anchored in faith despite the emotional storm around them. Faith in pain is not blind optimism. It is an intentional act of aligning one's heart with the belief that God is present, that He is aware, and that He is working even when it cannot be seen. The act of choosing faith during pain demonstrates a maturity and resilience that is rare. It shows a willingness to trust in God's timing, His wisdom, and His purposes, even when circumstances seem contrary to hope. Silence can be equally challenging. There are times when prayers appear to go unanswered, when heaven feels distant, or when guidance seems delayed. In these silent seasons, doubt can creep in, whispering that God is not listening, that the effort is wasted, or that the struggle is in vain. The chosen ones, however, refuse to let silence define their faith. They continue to worship, to pray, to act in alignment with God's will, even when the response is not immediate. This kind of faith demonstrates perseverance. It shows that belief is not dependent on immediate gratification or visible outcomes. Instead, it is rooted in a deep understanding that God's plans are perfect and that His timing is impeccable. Choosing faith in silence is a declaration that your trust is in the one who sees the unseen, hears the unspoken, and knows the unknown. Uncertainty is another test of faith. Life often places us at crossroads where the right path is unclear and the options may be overwhelming. Fear and hesitation can paralyze the spirit, but the chosen ones move forward with courage. They do not wait for perfect clarity or flawless conditions before acting in faith. Instead, they take steps based on trust, wisdom, and conviction, knowing that God will guide their journey. Faith in uncertainty requires humility, for it acknowledges that we do not have all the answers and cannot control every outcome. Yet, it is this very humility that allows God to work mightily through us. By choosing faith in the unknown, the chosen ones demonstrate a spiritual confidence that is not shaken by external circumstances. Faith during pain, silence, and uncertainty is not a passive stance. It is active, intentional, and transformative. It shapes character, strengthens resilience, and deepens intimacy with God. Every challenge faced with faith becomes a testimony. Every unanswered prayer becomes a lesson in trust, and every step taken in uncertainty becomes an act of spiritual courage. The chosen ones understand that life's trials are not obstacles to faith, but are opportunities for it to grow, mature, and impact the world around them. Ultimately, choosing faith in these difficult seasons is what distinguishes the chosen ones. It is easy to believe when life is smooth, when blessings are abundant, and when answers are immediate. But to hold on to faith when pain presses, when silence lingers, and when uncertainty clouds the path is to demonstrate a heart aligned with God's purposes. This kind of faith is rare, powerful, and deeply significant. It moves heaven, strengthens your spirit, and positions you for breakthroughs that others may not see coming. The chosen ones are not defined by the absence of struggle, but by their unwavering choice to trust God regardless of it. And in that choice, their lives carry a spiritual weight and impact that touches hearts and changes destinies. When you woke up this morning, it may have felt like just another ordinary day, but what you did in those first moments of your morning carried immense weight in the spiritual realm. God saw your effort, even if it seemed small or insignificant to you. Sometimes we underestimate the power of simply choosing to show up, to lift our hearts, to whisper a prayer, or to acknowledge God in our thoughts. Heaven notices these moments, and in fact, they touch God's heart deeply. It is not about the grandeur of the act or the eloquence of the words. It is about the sincerity of your heart. Even when you felt weak, tired, or unsure, your willingness to reach out in faith resonated in ways that extend beyond what you can see. God's attention is drawn to genuine expressions of trust, even when they are quiet and unassuming. Think about the mornings when you woke up burdened with responsibilities, worries, or doubts, and yet you chose to spend a moment in prayer, reflection, or gratitude. Those mornings are more powerful than you realize. In those moments, you were not just performing a routine, you were actively participating in a spiritual conversation. The angels witnessed it, heaven leaned in, God's heart responded. There is a deep, intimate awareness in God of the struggles, the sacrifices, and the silent acts of faith that go unnoticed by the world. What you may consider a fleeting or insignificant gesture, God records and treasures. The choice to turn your heart toward Him, despite distractions or discouragement, communicates a level of devotion that transcends words. It is important to understand that God's recognition is not based on perfection. You do not have to have all the answers, all the strength, or all the confidence. What matters is your willingness to show up with authenticity. Your heart, in its raw and imperfect state, is precious to God. When you offer even a simple thank you, help me, or I trust, it becomes a note that resonates in eternity. Heaven responds to those expressions of faith. What you may have thought of as an ordinary or routine action actually carries weight because it represents your choice to align with God in the midst of life's uncertainties. That alignment touches God's heart deeply because it demonstrates trust and surrender. Every morning presents a choice to rise and live in distraction, fear, or doubt, or to rise and intentionally center your heart on God. The latter, even in the smallest form, has the power to shift spiritual atmospheres. When you choose God in the morning, you are setting the tone for the entire day, for the spiritual energy around you, and for the unseen battles that you might face. That act of faith becomes a testimony in heaven, showing that your life, though human and limited, is committed to something eternal. Your morning devotion, your prayer, your acknowledgement of God in the early hours is like a seed planted in fertile soil. It may not produce immediate visible results, but it has already touched heaven and begun a process that will bear fruit in ways beyond your understanding. Sometimes you may feel unnoticed, like your efforts are small or your prayers go unheard. But the truth is, God is intimately aware. What you did this morning, whether it was kneeling in prayer, reading a verse, meditating, or simply whispering a word of faith, elicited a response in heaven. God's heart was stirred. Your faith, though perhaps fragile or hidden, carries weight. Each morning you choose to seek God, even amid weakness, doubt, or weariness, reflects a deep spiritual reality. Your heart is reaching toward Him, and that act alone is profoundly significant. Heaven values what seems small because it is often in these seemingly small acts that the greatest faith is revealed. Remember that God is always attentive to the details of your life. What you did this morning may appear ordinary to human eyes, but in heaven it is extraordinary. Every sincere act of devotion touches God's heart. It demonstrates your willingness to trust Him, to prioritize Him, and to seek His presence above all else. When you show up, even when it is hard, even when it seems inconsequential, God notices. And that recognition is not passive. It carries favor, blessing, and alignment with His divine purposes. Your morning faith matters more than you know, and it has already made an impact in the spiritual realm.